Alright, there we go. I believe we are officially live. Let's see. Send out a couple notifications to the Discord there. Get comments pulled up on my end. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. Let's see here. There we go. Hey, you should be proud of me, Chad. I actually remembered to get music going. Music going for our starting soon. Hey, be proud of me, chat. Be proud of me, chat. Alright, you guys. Come one, come all. This is a good early morning stream. What's up, Laura? Welcome. Come one, come all. We're going to give it some time, guys. Let some people get in here before we get started. I'll be running face cam today, so that's something. I'm doing good. How are you doing? Welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How to overcome fear? You gotta say fuck fear, right? How do we say fuck fear? We say fuck fear by living our life anyway. We say fuck fear by allowing that fear to be, allowing those feelings to be, not giving too much credit to those negative intrusive thoughts. You're just in the sensitized state. And when we say sensitized state, we don't mean anything big and fancy by that. We simply mean you are in a tired nervous system, right? An overactive nervous system. Your body thinks you're in danger when you're not. So, how to overcome fear? You don't have to read. You don't have to read you know, a novel on it. You just have to remind yourself that fear is a temporary emotion, and we have to say fuck fear. See, that's the thing, Arnold. Diving too deep, man. Diving too deep. Diving too deep, brother. That's easy to do because it's tempting. That's easy to do because it's tempting, but you know, everybody had to find me because they dove too deep at one point, right? You wouldn't be on my channel, you wouldn't have found my channel if you weren't diving too deep and adding fear to fear, right? So the fact that you're here now, I'm glad you're here. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad you're here, but the fact that you are here, okay, the fact that you ever found my channel to begin with tells me one thing, that you are adding a lot of fear to fear, that you are afraid of the way that you feel, right? That you are giving too much credit to those negative intrusive thoughts instead of just saying, you know what, say whatever you want. I'm going on with my life. I'm living my life. So I'm glad you found me. Don't get me wrong. But the fact that you did find me tells me one thing, adding too much fear to fear. And that is why you're here now, and that is why I'm telling you that in order to reverse this, okay, we start to practice seeing fear for what it is. We stop being afraid of being afraid. Hello, Wonder Bro. Good morning. Good morning, Michelle. We're about to get started in just a minute, guys. We're already about 4 minutes into this thing. Good little morning stream here. So, before we jump into the main point of today's stream, I do want to read something. You guys know I usually come to these streams prepared with some borrowed knowledge. So I do want to read something that might, what's the word I'm looking for? Inspire somebody today. So what I wanted to read was this. The reclamation, okay? Reclaiming yourself. There, I can't read today. of your original self, okay, it was completely intact and unflustered during the whole experience. So your original self, completely intact and unflustered during the whole experience. To oversimplify, the reason for this is your true personality, all right, your true personality, you, is held in a different part of the brain than your inappropriate anxiety panic personality. It is completely safe, sane, rational, and calm, and has been for the entire duration of your anxiety wisdom journey, okay? Regardless of how long you've had anxiety slash panic, whether it has been days, months, years, or decades. The ability to use the wisdom that anxiety has bestowed upon you, okay, you actually become calmer than everyone else. The quote unquote normal people, stress and fear, okay, can get to them instantly. The opportunity to achieve anything you wish in the full knowledge that any of these old social, medical, psychological fears that used to hold you back can be accepted, ignored, and eliminated. So that middle part sounded a bit confusing there, so let me go over that again. So the ability to use the wisdom that anxiety has given you on your journey, right, will actually help you to become calmer than everyone else. Okay, because the quote unquote normal people that that stress and that fear, all right, they don't have the tools that you're going to have. They don't have the tools that you're going to have. Eventually, one day, they might have to learn these tools, but as it stands right now, your journey is blessing you, right? And the real you, the you that you miss so much, is still there and completely unharmed and completely untouched during this entire journey. I want you to understand that. So it's said at the beginning of that it's stored, okay, in a different part of your brain than the anxiety slash panic personality, right? And that simply, what that means is that you're simply in that anxiety state, so you're not seeing things like you normally would see them. And that's why we don't want to give those negative intrusive thoughts too much credit. All right, guys, let's see. And again, I never ask anybody to fight with their thoughts or try not to think. That's impossible. I don't want you to go around being like, oh God, don't think, don't think, don't think. No, don't do that. Don't do that, because you've been fighting so long. That's how you found me. And if you do that, then you're still just fighting. It's the same as before you found me, right? So I'm not asking you to never think these thoughts again. You don't, that's impossible. What I'm asking you is to not give them too much credit when they come. Accept and live your life, because these thoughts are just the result of being in the current state that you're in. Alright, let's get that music out of here. Boom. Oh my gosh, I did it again. I did it again. I forgot to activate my cam from the Twitch screen. It has happened once more, chat. Alright, there we go. You know what? Wait, I don't think these are actually plugged up. Yeah, they're not plugged up. Oh well, I was going to get some lights going. Our little twinkly lights in the background, but they're apparently not plugged up today, so not gonna start climbing behind the couch to try to do that. All right, guys, what is up? What is up? Get these comments situated. What is up, everybody? How's everybody doing today? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. Assuming that it is morning for you, it is morning for me. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How is everyone doing? So, the title of today's stream, guys, anxiety. You're going to have moments where you doubt yourself, right? Now, I want you to understand something. As you start to heal and recover by doing your best to show your brain that there's no real danger, as you start to heal and recover by not adding so much fear to fear, as you start to heal and recover by getting back into your life a little bit at a time at your own pace, right? As you start to heal and recover by not giving these scary, negative, intrusive thoughts more credit than they deserve, and you just get back into life and you start to smile more and you start to show yourself, and most importantly, you start to show your brain that there is no real danger, that there's not a tiger right in front of you, right? You might have life problems, you might have life questions, but there's not a tiger, there's never a tiger right in front of you. So it's unnecessary to feel this false alarm. Now, as you start to prove that to your brain by living life and not giving these negative intrusive thoughts so much credit, right? And instead, every time you have one of these negative intrusive thoughts, you just put a smile on because you know it's not the real you, right? The two main keys, Frank, real quick, are just acceptance of your anxiety feelings, acceptance of fear, and moving through fear, aka just living your life, doing things that you normally enjoy doing, right? Start to put on a smile more. I know on the inside you're full of fear, but the brain wants to be shown that there's no real tiger, right? And that's why we accept the feelings, keep moving forward with our lives, even though we don't really feel the best on the inside. We show the brain that by behaving in a positive manner, that all is well. Now, you don't have to exert yourself, right? Okay, but just get back into life little by little. And the other of the two main keys is with these negative intrusive thoughts, don't give them too much credit. They are the result of being in the anxiety state, right? Because you know this is not the real you. You can think back to your past and realize this is definitely not the real you. So, no sense in giving them any too much credit, right? Now, that means when they pop up, you just need to realize, hey, there's that thought. I don't have to, get worked up over it. I don't have to fear it as much as I have been fearing it. It might cause a reaction in my body, but there's that thought, right? And I don't have to get so worked up over it. I don't have to dive too deep into it, right? It is just a negative, scary, intrusive thought. Now, those are the two main keys. But back to what I was saying, as you start to prove this to your brain, as you start to heal yourself, as you start to prove to your brain that there is no real danger, that there's nothing to be afraid of, that there's not a real tiger or a real bear right in front of you, what's going to happen is you're probably going to notice a little bit of a flip-flop. Let me explain this flip-flop. Now, in my personal experience, this flip-flop kind of happens like this. So as you start to get back into life and you start to do positive things and you start to not give those thoughts too much credit, what's going to happen with this flip-flop is for about 15-20 minutes, and this varies for everybody. Please do not take this like literally down to the minute. Everybody's a bit different. But just for example, for 15-20 minutes, you start to become your old self again in little ways. You're like, oh yeah, these thoughts are kind of ridiculous. Oh yeah, this is kind of stupid to worry about. Oh yeah, well, why was I so, you'll start to notice that you have these flip-flops where, for like I said, just for an example, 15-20 minutes, you're like, oh yeah, that was so stupid to worry about, or oh yeah, here's a new way that, I can look at this that makes a lot more sense now that I'm feeling much more calmer. You start to wake up to the true you. You start to wake up to your true self. Now, this may happen in spurts at first, and it may not happen a whole lot at first, so don't get discouraged. But as you start to get these little glimpses of the true you, I don't want you to hang on to them too tightly. I don't want you to be like, oh God, don't come back, anxiety. I love this too much. Because, you've still got a brain that's going to act up from time to time. You're trying to recover. You're trying to heal, right? But what I do want you to do with those moments is, I want you to be like, there it is. There's some of my proof slowly coming out. There's some of my proof slowly coming out. So that way when the next wave comes, or when these feelings return or these thoughts return, maybe you won't give them as much credit, right? Maybe you won't give them as much credit. So the title of the stream is, it's going to make you doubt yourself. And the reason the title of this stream is it's going to make you doubt yourself is because you are going to experience flip-flops. And as you start to see the real you and the true you and your real personality and your real perspectives on life and situations, and then you flip-flop back into needing to do more retraining, you might start to doubt yourself. You might start to say, well, that was just a jinx. I just got lucky there. Okay. I just got lucky, This stuff isn't really working. I just got lucky, right? And then immediately you start giving way too much credit to these thoughts. You start fearing these symptoms way too much again, right? And that's understandable. I'm not holding anybody to any sort of, you can do whatever you want to do. I'm just here to give you some of my personal advice. But it's understandable that when these flip-flops come, if you don't realize that this is a part of the journey for most people, this is a normal part of the journey, and everybody's a little bit different. But if you don't realize that these flip-flops are a very normal part of when you first get into this retraining boat, then you may start to doubt yourself heavily. You may start to be like, oh, I seen a little piece of my real self there. I felt good for a little bit there, but I guess that was just a jinx. I guess I just got lucky, and then you fall right back into the fear on top of fear. So I want you to understand that anxiety is going to try to make you doubt yourself. When you're on this journey, anxiety is going to try to make you doubt yourself. It's going to try to make you doubt your life. It's going to try to make you doubt your situation. It's going to try to make you doubt a lot of things. But the biggest thing that is probably going to try to make you doubt is your actual state, right? is your actual feelings, is your actual recovery. And I want you to understand that these glimpses of the real you, these little glimpses of your true personality, these little glimpses of feeling good, these little glimpses of your true self are not jinx. They're not a jinx, right? They're not jinxes, all right? I want you to understand that you didn't just get lucky. You didn't just get lucky. You're not being jinxed, and anxiety is going to try to make you believe that, right? And I want you to understand that. The first key is acceptance. Yes, acceptance, aka living your life, positive behaviors, right? So even though you feel fear, you still do things that you would normally do if you weren't feeling fear, right? You show your brain by living your life and just accepting this current temporary state that there is no real danger. Which means if I spend all day in bed, you know, I understand if you're tired, then relax. But if you're feeling fear and you're fighting your feelings and not showing your brain that all is well by just, even though you feel fear, you're still living your life. You're still trying to do the things that you would normally do. You're showing your brain by accepting the feelings and living your life to the best of your ability that there is no real danger. And like I said, you don't have to exert yourself. You don't have to do this until you fall to the floor. You simply just have to show your brain by living life like you normally would, okay? And maybe that's not in every way. Maybe you do have to go at your own pace. Maybe it is a little bit of a slow pace, and that's fine. But you're slowly showing your brain with acceptance that there is no real tiger. The second main key is don't give your negative intrusive thoughts so much credit, right? That means understand that this is a part of being in the anxiety state. You don't have to show them so much fear. They can simply rise up in your mind. You can notice them and you can say, okay, right? Because you wouldn't have found me if you wouldn't have been fighting all this time. So you've been fighting all this time. So now we're trying the opposite approach. We're not going to fight. We're not going to struggle. We're just going to realize that they're bullshit. We're just going to realize that they're bullshit. We're just going to chalk them up as bullshit. And we're going to continue on with our day, right? We're going to continue on with our day. So, you know, the reason you found my channel and the reason you're here to begin with is because you have been fighting for so long. Obviously, that's not working or you wouldn't have ended up on my channel. Obviously, that's not working or you wouldn't have went to Google or YouTube and typed in what you typed in, right? So, obviously, you wouldn't be listening to me now if fighting with all this shit was doing you any favors, right? Because if fighting with it was doing you any favors, it would have worked a long time ago before you found me, right? So that is the two main keys in a nutshell right there. Can any trigger be conquered? Sure. Yeah, because the thing about fear is, I read a quote the other day, and it's a beautiful quote. Something about, and don't quote me exactly on what it says, but the thing about fear is when you run towards it, it runs away. The thing about fear is when you run towards it, it runs away. So you're showing your brain by not bowing down to this fear. You're showing your brain by not bowing down to these feelings of fear. You're showing your brain by not giving these negative intrusive thoughts so much credit that there is nothing to fear, right? That you don't want to be this person who is full of this fear, right? And that's easier said than done at first. I know. That is why we use the word practice. And we use the word practice very often here on the channel for that reason. Because I get that. I get that it's easier said than done at first. I get that your body and your mind are trying to pull you in a totally different direction. I get that. I get that. But as we continue forth, regardless of what these stupid, negative, intrusive thoughts are trying to tell us, regardless of what these feelings are trying to tell us, when we continue forth anyway, we start to show our brain the truth, right? We start to show our brain the truth. And, back to the main point of this stream, as you do this, you may start to notice that, yes, you're starting to experience some of the old you again. You're starting to experience some of your real personality again. And that might be short-lived. You might flip-flop a lot, but I don't want that to make you start doubting yourself. Okay? I don't want that to make you start doubting yourself. I simply want you to look at that as proof that you're getting somewhere. right? I want you to simply look at that as proof that you're getting somewhere. And as you wake up to the real you and as you continue retraining, don't worry, these things will sort themselves. And you'll start to wake up to your true personality, who has thoughts that are more in line with the truth, more in line with reality, more in line with positivity, right? So it's not about trying to force the old you out. It's about retraining your brain, continuing on with your day, not giving too much credit to these old thoughts, and just behaving in such a way that you show your brain, I'm not bowing to this shit, right? Even if that's just a smile, even if that's just, doing whatever it is you would normally do, right, when you feel good. So it's not so much about forcing the old you out. It's not so much about saying, oh, well, I'm not going to feel good until these thoughts completely stop, right? Unless these thoughts stop, I'll never recover. That's simply not true, because what we read earlier, the real you, okay, your true personality, you, is held in a different part of the brain than your inappropriate anxiety personality, right? So it's not so much about trying to force anything. It's just about showing your brain that all is well, and then the real you will start to come back out. And then the real you will start to come back out. What do you have to lose? What could it hurt, guys? Right? So some people say, well, I just don't feel like doing the things that I normally enjoy doing. I don't feel like smiling more. I don't feel like playing my video games I normally play. I don't feel like, doing this or doing that I normally enjoy doing. But I ask you, what do you have to lose? You're here on my channel because you felt like crap, or else you wouldn't be on my channel. You're here on my channel because you felt like crap. So all I'm asking you to do is to live your life like you normally would, and you don't have to go out on great adventures, and climb Mount Everest and wrestle sharks. I'm simply asking you, smile more, live your life, right? Instead of giving in to all this fear and hunkering down, and just live your life, even if that's just taking the trash out, right? If that's where you start. What do you have to lose? What could that hurt? What do you have to lose by just not giving these negative intrusive thoughts so much credit? What do you have to lose by not fighting with these negative intrusive thoughts and just saying, you know what, I fought with you for so long already, I'm just not going to fight with you, and, as you come and go, I'm just going to start to give you less and less credit? What do you have to lose? What could it hurt, right? So I know that it's making you doubt yourself. I know that you're thinking this is too simple for me. This whole acceptance thing. I know that you're thinking it's going to take much more than this. But at this point, you wouldn't be on my channel if you haven't tried a bunch of other shit already. So at this point, I ask you, what do you have to lose, right, chat? The real you is there, and the real you will start to come back out, right? I know Dr. Claire recommended the float and let time pass method. Can you elaborate how to float and let time pass? So let time pass just means you have to accept that you're in the current state that you're in, and you're willing to continue forward, and you're willing to not get so caught up on, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this, oh my God, that, right? And floating simply means acceptance. Floating simply means thoughts will come, feelings will come, thoughts will come, feelings will come, but I'm just living my life. I'm not sitting around in my bed. I'm not, all day, every day. I'm getting up. I'm taking the trash out. I'm getting up. I'm drawing. I used to be an artist. I like to draw. I'm getting up and I'm taking, I'm taking these chores and activities that I used to do, and I'm doing them, and I'm floating, right? So floating simply means acceptance. Floating simply means um, showing your brain the truth. Floating simply means stop fighting against these thoughts and feelings, because that's what you've been doing for so long, and that's why you're here now. Right, guys? So, to sum up the main point of the stream, okay, anxiety will try to make you doubt yourself, even when you get those little glimpses of your true self. But understand those little glimpses were not jinx. That is the true you starting to come back out. And instead of falling into doubting yourself, just understand, okay, well, there was a little bit of proof, so now I'm just going to keep moving forward. All right, you guys. So with that being said, we are going to move on to the post stream. I've got to get something to drink, guys. Ugh, I have been wanting something this whole time. I've been wanting something this whole time. I didn't just want to stop midstream though. All right. Oh, here we go. This is beautiful. Beautiful. So again, guys, don't doubt yourself. Again, guys, anxiety will try to make you doubt yourself. But understand that as you see this real you start to come back out again, okay? Understand that as you start to see this real you come back out again, that this is not a jinx. You're not being jinxed. It's not a hoax, right? This is the real you. And just continue forward. Continue forward. Continue showing your brain what's up. Well, it's not so much about forcing anything, Arnold. Even terms like living in the present, that's not so much about forcing anything. This is all about not fighting, right? So, it's all about allowing these thoughts to come and go, allowing these feelings to come and go, right? So it's like you say, oh, well, I get anxious thoughts that this spring will be the same as last year, and I get memories about the quarantine, and, well, that's fine. There's not jack shit you can do about these thoughts, right? But what you can do, and the reason I say there's not jack shit that you can do about these thoughts is because they've already happened. By the time you realize you've had a thought, you've already had it. So it's not about saying, "Oh, don't think that, don't think that." You are not in control of that, right? So it's not about don't think that, don't think that, don't think that. It's more about, okay, well, I had a thought. I had a thought, and I don't have to fight. I don't have to fight, right? Because I know deep down a thought is just a thought, right? I know deep down that I don't have to fight my thoughts, right? It's like, oh, I can't stop these thoughts from coming. You're right, you can't. You can't. But you can change your reaction to them, right? You can change your reaction to them so that your brain doesn't think that they're this great, awful fear, this real danger, right? And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, right there. So, you know, I have a sense that maybe you're thinking, oh, well, you know, I had these thoughts. How do I make this thought stop? Well, you can't. You can't force a thought to not come because by the time it's came, you've already had it. It's already happened. That's the nature of thoughts. By the time that you realize you had a thought, well, you've already had it, right? But what we can do, okay, so I don't want you going around saying, oh, I can't stop these thoughts from coming. I can't stop these thoughts from coming. You're right, you can't. And by fighting that and trying to do that, you're just stressing yourself out, right? So, we've never said, oh, well, make sure these thoughts don't come. And when someone tells you, be present, they're not saying, oh, well, make sure these thoughts never come. Because that's impossible. That's literally impossible. What you can do is change your relationship towards it, so you're not giving it as much of a reaction anymore, right? And the reaction in the body might be because you're sensitized. It might be there. That's fine. Yeah, but it ruins the moment. Yeah, but there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing we can do about these thoughts that come. I can't tell you anything that's going to make these thoughts not come. I can't. There is nothing I can literally do to tell you to make these thoughts not come. What I can tell you to do is not to give them such a reaction, and then they'll start to lessen and lessen, because the more of a reaction you give them, the stronger they become, right? Hey, everyone's allowed to go at their own pace, Migs. Everyone's allowed to go at their own pace. Everyone's absolutely allowed to go at their own pace. Um, but again, guys, there's nothing I can tell you that's just going to make these thoughts stop coming. And if you try to make them stop coming, right, they're just going to come, right? So when you get these feelings of anxiety, when you towards these thoughts, and when you get these thoughts themselves, loosen and accept, as Dr. Claire Weeks says. This is showing your brain that you can slowly start to lower the alarm now, Mr. Brain. You can slowly start to lower the alarm now, Mr. Brain. because I'm not fighting like I used to, right? So even though I personally don't use the term present moment a whole lot here on the channel, even when you hear that term present moment, nobody's saying to you, don't ever think again. That's impossible. That is impossible. What they're saying to you is when these thoughts come, you don't have to give them as much of a reaction, right? You don't have to give them as much of a reaction. You don't have to dive so deep into them. You can simply notice them. You can simply realize that it's, there's that negative intrusive thought, right? So nobody's ever going to tell you don't ever think this thought again, because that's just not possible. That's just not possible. What you can do is you can change your reaction to them so that you can start to loosen and accept, as Dr. Clairweek says, and get on with your life and live your life and show your brain that all is well, and you'll start to enter into the real you again, right? You'll start to enter into that real you again. And then as a result of that, these thoughts won't be like they are now. So I hope that makes it a little bit clear. You're gonna have your waves, guys. You're gonna have waves. You're gonna have these moments. Oh, you're okay. The feelings, yeah. So you understand that you was talking about a reaction. Um, I don't want to not get these thoughts. Yeah. So it's not about because we don't have any say so in what thoughts we get, right? So that's a big one. We don't have any say so in what thoughts we get. We don't have any say so in what thoughts come, right? So that's a big one. You need to go ahead and drop that. I'm not saying you, Arnold, specifically, just anyone that can relate to this. You need to go ahead and drop that urge to want to be able to control what thoughts come, because by the time you've had a thought, you've already had it. But what you can do is work on how you react to the feelings these thoughts bring, and how you react to the thoughts themselves, right? So you can accept these feelings, you can accept these thoughts, and you don't have to add so much fear to them, right? That's what acceptance is all about. It's about, we can't control what thoughts come. We can't control how our body reacts to these thoughts, especially if we are in a sensitized state. But what we can control is how we react to that, to those feelings, to that fear and whatnot. And that's really what Dr. Claire Weeks' whole message was about, the loosen and acceptance method. You're showing your brain that, hey, there's no need for this excess anxiety, there's no need for this or that. You're not adding fear to fear, right? So that's what you're really doing. You're not trying to control what thoughts come, because again, we can't control what thoughts come, especially when they're in the sensitized state or a tired nervous system. And trying to control what thoughts come, it makes no sense, because by the time you have a thought, you've already had it. It's already happened. So you can drop that stressful desire, because it's inhumanly possible when we look at the facts, obviously. So, but what we do have control over is whether we add fear to fear. What we do have control over is what Dr. Claire Weeks calls second fear. So you can have these thoughts, and if you're in a tired nervous system, you can have these feelings that come along with the thoughts. But what you can do is chalk it up as there's those feelings, there's that, negative intrusive thought, and like I said yesterday, I'm not telling you, oh, the mind is a villain. Don't ever daydream ever again. Don't ever use your mind ever again. I'm specifically referring to negative intrusive thoughts that we have no say over, right? There's those thoughts, there's those feelings. I don't have to add so much fear to that. I can do my best to practice acceptance, to show my brain that these thoughts aren't needed, that these feelings aren't needed, of these feelings of anxiety, right? So it's like sometimes when people find acceptance, they just start doing the same thing they did that led them to find acceptance, which is fighting. So it's great that you found acceptance, but once you find acceptance and once you find retraining your brain and whatnot, and you start to look into mental health and all that stuff, and you start to realize that, you know, many and all great methods, if you want to call it that, come down to soothing your nervous system. Once you find all that out, that's great. But then you start fighting about that. you know, in some way, shape, or form, you're still adding fear to fear. You're still, these thoughts come and you're still giving them too much credit instead of saying, oh, there's just a thought. I'm not going to start fighting my feelings. And, this thought is just a thought. And I'm not going to get to this point where I'm trying to dive so deep with it because I'm just going to realize that it is an intrusive thought and I'm going to do my best to not add so much fear to it, right? And the same with the feelings. So that's using the advice. Learning the advice is one thing, but using it is a completely different thing, right? But using it is a completely different thing. And I want you to understand that if you found the advice, right? If you found the advice, but you're still fighting these negative, intrusive thoughts instead of just working on not fearing them as much by allowing them to come and go and realizing that they're BS. And if you're still fighting your feelings by adding so much fear to them and telling yourself horror stories about them, right? Then even though you've got the advice, it's not going to do a whole lot for you, right? And my whole point is, well, you obviously found me because you felt miserable, right? Or you wouldn't have found my channel to begin with. So chances are the whole fighting thing didn't work out for you. Because the first thing we do with anxiety and these negative intrusive thoughts is fight them. And then we get to a point where we've got a tired nervous system, so now we've got to get on Google and we've got to find something else to try. So then we stumble across this guy named Vacate Fear. Okay, great. He's telling me that maybe I should try the opposite. I tried fighting for so long, that's not working. Maybe I should try the opposite. So I'm going to give that a go. But then you sit around and you still fight, right? You still fight these feelings. You still tell yourself horror stories about them. You're not living your life like you used to, and you're giving these negative, intrusive, scary thoughts too much credit, right? Instead of just realizing, hey, there's some BS in the head. I'm just going to accept that it's some BS in the head and work on not adding so much fear to it, right? Absolutely no problem, Michelle. Absolutely no problem. Glad you're enjoying it. Give me a sip of something to drink here. Always, always. Well, I'm glad you enjoy the streams, Michelle. I'm glad you're starting to feel better and do better. That makes everything that I do here worth it, even if it just helps one person. And I know for a fact we've helped way more than just one person. So it's definitely worth it. The way I look at it is, what do you have to lose? You obviously found me because you're miserable anyway. So what do you have to lose? And, the fact that it's helping people makes it all worth it. Let's see, let's get some music going again. Hopefully that's not too loud or anything. If it is, just let me know. Let's change the song. I know it's very tempting to fight, guys. I know it is. But like I keep saying, you've been doing that for how long now? Be honest with me, chat. For how long have you been doing that? Like, be honest with me, chat. You found me for a reason. So how long have you been fighting? How long have you been trying that? It's very obviously that's not working, or you wouldn't have had to resort to finding me. So, and let's face it, there really is only one way when it comes to anxiety. And I'm not talking about medication. You absolutely can try medication if you would like to. That's a personal decision. I have no say so in that. I want no part in that. But if you look at it, you know, all these different, therapies, and I'm not saying maybe every single one of them, but 90% of them, even if we're talking about CBT, which is, I'm not a CBT expert by any means, but even if we're talking about, some CBT people will tell you to see your thoughts and flip them around and stuff, which not a whole lot of people has success with that. But regardless, whatever we're talking about, what's it trying to do? What is the aim of anxiety disorder recovery? What is the aim of anything that you try? The aim is to remove fear of fear. The aim is to get you to a point where you can soothe your nervous system, right? So with this approach, we're just saying, hey, if you've tried all these other things, they're not working out for you. If you want to give this a go, I recommend it, because the more you fight with these feelings and thoughts, it seems the stronger they become, and you just stress your nervous system out even more, right? Yeah, feeling fatigued and emotional can be very normal part of a tired nervous system, Arnold. Well, the fact that you're afraid that you have depression means that you're just adding fear to something. So it's not depression that's causing you the heartache that you're experiencing right now. It's the fact that you're fearing it. What I mean by that is it's the fact that you are allowing these thoughts to you're giving these thoughts too much credit, and it's keeping you worked up. It's keeping you worked up. And therefore, having that negative impact on your nervous system. So it's not actually like depression itself is causing, you know, the the heartache that you feel right now, the struggle that you feel right now. It's that when these negative intrusive thoughts come about depression, you're giving them too much credit and fearing them too much and adding too much fear to them, which is keeping that negative impact on your overall sense of well-being. So we start to see these thoughts in a new way. We start to see them in a new light. And the new light that we see them in is that a thought is a thought, and if we give it too much credit, it starts to have a negative impact on us, right? And what I mean by giving them too much credit is I simply mean you start to um, buy into them a little too much, and you start to argue with them a little bit too much, and you start to, you know, I know I keep saying it, but it really does come down to just giving them too much credit. That's probably the best way that you can word that. Giving them too much credit. So, I'm fully aware of how, when you're in a tired nervous system, how thoughts can seem much more overbearing than they normally would. Let me get this sad shit off here. I want some groovy lo-fi. Oh, we got an ad. Sorry about that, guys. We're gonna have to let that play. But yeah, I fully understand how when you're in that tired body, when you're in that tired nervous system, how thoughts are much more overbearing or overwhelming than they normally would be. Completely get that. But it's like this, if this thought is there and it's overwhelming and it's overbearing, what's the best way to kind of go about that? Well, for starters, realize that you are in a tired nervous system, and then also realize that this is not the real you. This is not how you would normally think or operate. This is a part of the anxiety state. And then that should help, just realizing those facts right there should help already, even if just a tiny, teensy little bit, remove some of that excess fear that you're giving to these thoughts. That, just knowing those little facts right there should already help just a tiny, teensy little bit at least remove some of the excess fear that you're giving to these thoughts. And, some people are like, well, prove it. Well, look back on your past. If you had these same thoughts back in your past, would you give them so much credit? Would you give them so much credit? No. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll realize that too. How did I get an ad? I just had an ad and I wasn't able to catch it in time, which means I'll get 1,000 emails later about how. Oh, God. Alright, it's fine. Thing about those ads is when I'm playing music, if I don't catch them in time, if I don't catch them in time and they make it into the recording or whatever, the stream, then I get 1,000 emails saying, your video has copyright content in it. It is now unable to be monetized, which I don't monetize my videos currently anyway, but it's literally, I don't know, they send like 30 emails. It's weird. Well, again, Arnold, and I know I sound like a broken record, but it does come down to not giving it so much credit. And simply what I mean by not give it so much credit is you notice the intrusive negative thoughts when they come, you notice the feelings when they come, and you just say, okay, okay, and honestly, you could end it there, right? And that would be fine. And you're going to notice that almost out of habit, you want to add fear. Almost out of habit, you want to add fear, right? But this is the practices we're trying to break that habit of adding so much fear. We're trying to break that habit out of giving them too much credit. So, you know how that old saying goes, let it roll off your back? That's kind of what we're trying to tell you to get into the practice of doing, so that the real you can start to come back out. And I know that sounds like a very cliche quote, a very cliche thing to say, but really, I mean, if you look at that for what it is, the whole let it roll off your back thing, um, it's true. It's true. You can start to fight these feelings and thoughts and add so much unnecessary fear and keep your nervous system stressed, or you can practice letting it roll right off. I know that sounds so cliche, but it's very true. This is what Dr. Claire Weeks essentially meant by acceptance. You're soothing the nervous system by practicing allowing things to roll off your back. And don't get me wrong, guys. I fully understand that at first that's not like the easiest thing in the world to do. Like, don't get me wrong. I completely understand that. But that's why we have the two main keys. And the reason we want you to get back into life and use these, positive behaviors, like smiling more and music and stuff like that, is because this is going to help you let this thing roll off your back. That's one of the reasons, right? So get on with life, and when these negative, intrusive thoughts come, let them roll right off your back and realize they're BS, right? Well, you're going to have feelings automatically. That's a part of anxiety. If you're in a tired nervous system and a thought comes, chances are you're going to have a feeling attached with that thought. We're just asking you to accept that feeling instead of getting so worked up over it. So if you're in a tired nervous system, you're going to have some feelings that come with these thoughts. That's part of being in the tired nervous system. If you didn't have any feelings that came with these thoughts, you probably wouldn't care about them anyway. Exactly, Frank. Boom, 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 boom. By letting it roll right off your back, big worm. You give too much credit to these thoughts and feelings, man. And that's the whole trick of the anxiety disorder. You give them too much credit, you spend too much time fighting and arguing with all of it, and it's just adding too much strain to your tired nerves. So people, I was talking about it earlier, people find out about acceptance, but they're still fighting. And that's understandable. That's why we use the word practice a lot. It's really about allowing yourself to be with these feelings and thoughts without trying to give them too much credit, with allowing them and practicing allowing them to. So we're not asking anybody to do the impossible. Oh, never have a negative thought again. Never have a tired nervous system symptom ever again. Um, you know, we're saying, and the same thing Dr. Claire Weeks was saying, when these thoughts and feelings come, practice allowing them to let them roll right off your back. Let them roll. You're not adding any strain. You're not adding any strain. You're not adding any fight. These thoughts are BS. There's that thought. It's BS. the feeling, right, and you're letting it roll right off your back. You're not trying to suppress anything. You're not trying to fight anything. You're just letting it roll right off your back, and that's the practice. And that's the little quote that I've been on today, because maybe that helps you picture what we're trying to say a little bit better. And if you're letting something roll right off your back, that means you're not fighting with it, right? And what happens is you start to do this long enough and you start to enter into the real you. You start to soothe the nervous system. You start to calm the nervous system by just living life to the best of your ability, and everybody's allowed to go at their own pace. But just living your life to the best of your ability and allowing these thoughts and feelings to roll right off your back, you're gonna speak directly to the nervous system. You're gonna start to soothe the nervous system, and then you're gonna be thinking, what the hell was I so afraid about? Because you're starting to access that different part of your brain now. Hey, it's up to you, Arnold. Everybody's got to make their own choice. If you know the information, use the information. If you just catch a stream whenever we do a stream, that's fine. If you're sitting watching my streams and videos 24 hours a day and fighting with your thoughts and feelings, then you're still doing the same thing you were doing before you found my videos. So what's the difference, right? So that's different. That's a different case. But if you're just catching the streams from time to time, whatever, or as a new stream comes out, you're learning, and then you're using the advice, that's great. But if you're just watching my streams and videos 24 hours a day, but you're not practicing acceptance, you're still fighting just like you were before you found my videos, then that might be a different case, but we can get back on track. But I think you're learning, Arnold. So you guys tell me, do you watch my videos and streams 24 hours a day, but you're still fighting just like you were before you found my videos? Because at that point, I make no difference. You were fighting before you found my videos, and now you're just fighting with my videos. or are you starting to implement the advice? You gotta understand, guys. My words are just they're just words. The action that comes into acceptance is really practicing allowing these negative intrusive thoughts and feelings to roll off your back. Because if it wasn't for me, you would be somewhere else doing the same thing anyway. If it wasn't for my videos, if you're not practicing acceptance, if you're keeping your nervous system tired by fighting with these intrusive negative thoughts and feelings, it doesn't matter about my videos. You'd be somewhere else doing the same thing. So the advice is only as good as your willingness to use it. Yeah, Dan, I cleaned out a lot of my older videos that had low views or were just completely irrelevant. Yeah, so that's fine, Arnold. You gotta know the advice to use it, right? Nothing wrong with learning. Hope everyone's having a good morning. Might start using that quote more often. Let it roll off your back. Acceptance. Ooh, this is my jam. I love this one. We've had a rainy morning here, guys. What's for dinner? I don't know. What's for dinner for you, Dan? Hey man, Asen, if it worked, right? I'll turn this light off, guys. It's so bright. There we go, that's much better. Ooh, pasta, okay. I like me some good pasta. Hey, that's awesome, Mason. I wish that one song was longer than it was. I believe in every single one of you, man. I believe in every single one of you, and I believe that every single one of you can live a happy life. And I believe that every single one of you deserve to live a happy life. And I truly believe that in the end you will live a happy life. Let those thoughts roll right off your back, Karen. So sometimes we let one thought roll off our back, and then another time we don't let the other thought roll off our back, right? And that's the tricky, sneaky nature of negative, intrusive thoughts. We let one thought roll off our back, but we don't let another roll off our back. And I've been there. I know how it feels. We let one thought roll off our back instead of giving it too much credit, and then another negative intrusive thought comes and we give it too much credit and we don't let it roll off our back, right? That's kind of like the sneaky, tricky nature of the mind. The sneaky, tricky nature of the mind. Hey man, I'm glad you're doing better, Asen. We leave one thought alone and don't give it any credit, but then we give the next one credit, right? These negative intrusive thoughts are exactly the ones that I'm referring to. Not just like, thinking in general. I'm not saying your mind's a villain, never use your mind again, but you can't control what negative intrusive thoughts come, so we have to let them roll off our back. Because by the time they've already came, then they've already came, By the time they've came, they've already happened. So at that point, we either give them credit and fuse with them, or we don't give them credit and we do our best to practice allowing them to just roll off our back. It's the sneaky nature of these negative intrusive thoughts, Arnold. The sneaky nature of these negative intrusive thoughts. Well, assuming everyone here's been properly diagnosed by a doctor, when it comes to anxiety and these negative intrusive thoughts, we tend to give one credit and then okay, we don't give the next one credit, but then the next one comes and we're just adding so much fear to fear and giving them all credit, right? So instead, we really got to get the visual picture in our head of these thoughts just bouncing off of our back, right? And that might help you. That might help you. That might help you because you found me because you were feeling miserable, and now you're finding it difficult to use, what I'm telling you. So you found me because you were miserable, and now you've got some advice, and um, you're trying to practice it, but you're still doing what you were doing before you found me, right? And that's understandable. Understandable. That's why I use the word practice so much. But that might actually help you, and I don't want you to underestimate. I don't want you to underestimate that. Actually visualizing these thoughts rolling off your back. Actually visualizing these thoughts as they pop up, rolling off your back, right? Bouncing off your back. So maybe it's like you get a thought and, you visualize this thought just popping right up and it just pops right off you. It bounces right off you, right? You accept it. There's nothing we can do about the thoughts when they come, but they just bounce right off you. Well, it's different times for everybody, Asen. Nobody, it all depends on, are you, what are you doing? You know what I mean? It just, that's why time frames are hard to give, because it's different for everybody. So there's not a set time frame. I know you're not saying there is. I'm just stating there's not a set time frame, but yeah, it is awesome. Some people do it rather quickly. Some people, it takes them a little bit of time. This is all fine. But it's an individual process, an individual journey. But there is no set time frame. You don't have to go through it for this amount of time, whatever. I think it's Dr. Claire Weeks who says the nervous system heals rather quickly, or very quickly, once you start to allow these thoughts and feelings to kind of roll off you instead of adding so much fear. So the feelings are going to be automatic, the feelings of fear, and the thoughts are going to be automatic, but practicing letting it pop right off you. And it might help if you do visualize that. It might help you if you actually visualize that. Like literally visualize them popping off of you, rolling off of you. All right, beautiful people, we have surpassed the 1 hour mark, so I am going to go ahead and end this stream here. I love you guys. I appreciate you for watching. If you're struggling right now, understand that it will get better, right? Don't give these negative intrusive thoughts so much credit. Don't give these feelings so much credit. If it helps you to visualize it, just popping up and rolling right off your back, then that's fine, right? Just the second fear, working with this second fear, getting to the point where you don't add so much, give so much credit to these thoughts and feelings. This is a practice, so do not beat yourself up if it's taking some time. I understand completely, right? But understand that everything will be okay. All right, you guys. So as you carry on with your day today, as you have these negative, intrusive thoughts and these feelings, I want you to understand that you do not have to give them so much credit. You do not have to give them so much credit, right? You will be okay, guys. You absolutely will be. I trust in you. I believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself. And together, all right, we are going to make your life better. And it starts with you, and it starts with your decision to allow these negative intrusive thoughts to come and go, and allow these feelings to come and go without giving them so much credit. All right, you guys, I love you, and I will see you in the next stream.